In the inner shrine, the use of natural wood shows the Japanese love for natural materials and Shinto's regard for nature. This building is visited by millions of pilgrims each year, but only members of the imperial family and a few Shinto priests are allowed inside the building, which houses the sacred shrine. The shrine houses the three sacred symbols of Shinto, which are the sword, the mirror, and a jewel. Shinto sites are associated with the imperial family and typically enshrine three items. These three are known as the imperial regalia of Japan, or the three sacred treasures. The mirror is a symbol of the sun goddess. Japan's imperial family claims direct descent from her lineage and wisdom. The sword was found in the tail of a dragon slain by the sun goddess's brother and represents valor. The jewel is an ancient and holy Shinto talisman, which means like an amulet or a charm, an object thought to have sacred power, and it represents benevolence or the desire to do good. Despite the dominance of Buddhism, Shinto shrines continue to be built in serene woods and beside quiet shores. Later, they were incorporated into Buddhist compounds. Shinto worship is silent and simplistic. The Asuka period lasted from 552 to 646 CE, and it was a period of intense cultural transformation. During a single century, forms of philosophy, medicine, music, food, clothing, agricultural methods, art, and architecture were introduced into Japan from Korea and China. The three most significant contributions during this period were Buddhism, a centralized governmental structure, and a system of writing. All were modified to suit the Japanese conditions. Buddhism was accepted by the imperial family and adopted as a state religion, and worship focused in temples. Here is an example of early Japanese Buddhist temple. So you can see how it kind of has that watchtower look, and also they are using the bracketing system. Few paintings survive from this period, and one of the images that does survive is this two-dimensional work about the Jataka tales. The Jataka tales are stories about the former lives of the Buddha. So the Buddha, of course, lived before because they believe in the cycle of rebirth. So one of his previous lives is depicted here in this image. And in this panel, the Buddha in one of his past lives is sacrificing his life to feed his body to the starving tigress and cubs beneath. So here he is up here, and he is going to jump off the cliff. There he is again. And then you can see the hungry lions and the tigers feeding off of his body. So he jumps off the cliff, he breaks open his flesh to attract them, and he actually is appearing 3 different times in this image. It's a very flat style. We note that it really doesn't have a lot of foreshortening or depth in this image.
The hungry tigress. Once, long ago, the Buddha came to life as a noble prince named Mahasatha in a land where the country of Nepal exists today. One day, when he was grown, he went walking in a wild forest with his 2 older brothers. The land was dry and the leaves brittle. The sky seemed alight with flames. Suddenly, they saw a tigress. The brothers turned to flee, but the tigress stumbled and fell. She was starving, and her cubs were starving too. She eyed her cubs miserably, and in that dark glance, the prince sensed her long months of hunger and pain. He saw, too, that unless she found food soon, she might even be driven to devour her own cubs. He was moved to compassion by the extreme hardness of their lives. What, after all, is this life for, he thought? Stepping forward, he calmly removed his outer garments and lay down before her. He tore his skin with a stone and let the starving tigress smell the blood. Mahasatva's brothers fled. Hungrily, the tigress devoured the prince's body and chewed the bones. She and her cubs lived on, and for many years, the forest was filled with a golden light. Centuries later, a mighty king raised a pillar of carved stone on this spot, and pilgrims still go there to make offerings, even today. Deeds of compassion live forever.
The stories of the Buddha's past life helped spread Buddhism into Japan, and Buddhism and Shinto coexisted quite comfortably.